Hi, today I'm going to explain how to do a limit problem. So the first problem wants us to evaluate the limit. As the limit of s approaches 0, 6 over s minus 6 over s squared plus s. The first step I'm going to take is to rewrite the problem. As you notice, I rewrote this part, and that's important to do for nearly all of the steps. So I'm going to leave some space in between these, and I will show you why in a second. Okay, so as I've rewritten the problem, the next thing I'm going to do is I've noticed that this original problem has a subtraction sign in the middle of it. And seeing that subtraction sign, I can tell what my next step will be, which is to find a common denominator between the two. So each term, this is the denominator, and we're going to want to make them match up. So I'm going to multiply the opposite term with the denominator from the other. So for the first term, I have the s, but I need the s squared plus s. So I'm going to write s squared plus s over s squared plus s. And then I'm going to multiply that through. So rewrite this. Now I have 6s squared plus 6s over s times s squared plus s minus, and then we're going to do what we don't have on this right side term is the s, so we multiply s over s, and then we're going to multiply that through, so I have a 6s over s times s squared plus s. Now, as you can see, both of the denominators should be exactly the same, and they are. And then I'm going to go to the next step, rewrite this. I'm going to combine them together so we can see what terms we have. And as we've rewritten this with the same denominator and all the numerator terms on the same over the same fraction bar, we can see that two of our terms actually cancel out, plus 6s and minus 6s. So we can get rid of those. So we rewrite this again. We have 6s squared over s times s squared plus s. Now you may be thinking, oh, I'm not sure what to do at this point, but something you can notice on the denominator is that both of these terms have an s in them. So the next logical step would be to factor out an s so we can try to cancel anything out. So rewrite the limit as s approaches 0. Rewrite our 6s squared on the top. Now we have an s times, we're going to take out one s because there's only one in this one, and there will be one left over in this one. So s times s, and we leave that original s from the s squared because we only took one out from that, plus 1. Now these two s's will combine. So we have 6s squared over s squared times s plus 1. Now these two, so the 6s squared over the s squared, this can divide through and cancel out. So then we end up with 6 over s plus 1. Now at this point we can't do any more simplification, and we are left to plug in our limit number, which is 0. And at this point, once you plug in the number you have at your limit, you no longer write the limit as letter approaches number. And in our case, the limit as s approaches 0. So I'm going to plug it in. So I'm going to demonstrate that with an equal sign. So I have 6 over, plug in my s, which is 0, plus 1 equals 6 over 1. And that simplifies to the number 6. And that is the final answer for this problem. These are all of the steps. Okay, the second problem we will be doing today, question number 2, is evaluating the limit as the limit of x approaches 0, 1 over x plus 6 minus 1 over 6 over x. Now this one may seem more daunting than the first, but if you look at the parts of it, you can see that it's fairly similar to the first one. So the first thing we're going to do is notice the top has the subtraction symbol in it from the first one that we noticed, and we can realize that we can use a common denominator. So for the time being, we're going to only use the numerator. So I'm going to rewrite that, just the numerator. Rewrite numerator. So I had the limit as x approaches 0, 1 over x plus 6 minus 1 over 6. Now I left my space again, so I will be able to multiply to get our common denominator. So on the left term, we are missing a 6, and on the right term, we're missing an x plus 6. So we're going to go ahead and multiply those out. So 6 over 6 times x plus 6 over x plus 6. To write that out and multiply through, we have a 6 over 6 times x plus 6 minus x plus 6 over 6 times x plus 6. Now, as we can see, our denominators are exactly the same. And this one may be a little bit tricky. I might get stumped on this part because we have to ensure that we distribute this minus sign. And that's how we were able to cancel out certain terms. So I'm going to write 6 minus x and then minus 6 because we distributed that sign all over 6 times x plus 6. At this point, we can see that these 6's cancel out, 6 minus 6. That leaves us with the limit as x approaches 0, negative x over 6 times x plus 6. And at this point, there's not much we can do, but we have to remember that we did not do anything with this denominator from the original equation. So we got to reintroduce that. So in step number 2, reintroduce original denominator. So we're going to take the limit as x approaches 0 of our numerator, which is what we got here, 6 times x plus 6 all over x. Now at this point, fraction over fraction, that may seem confusing, but we are going to do this like regular fraction division. We're going to keep change flip. So the limit as x approaches 6, so we have negative x over 6 times x plus 6. Multiply that by 1 over x. The 1 over x came from this x, which, if you don't know why it's 1 over x, any number or any letter like that that's by itself is always over a 1. We just don't demonstrate it because that equals x. So to flip that, it will be 1 over x, and that is where we got this from. So we're going to multiply that through. So we still have a negative x on top. And on the bottom, we have a 6x times x plus 6. Limit x approaches 0. Negative x over 6x times x plus 6. And we can see that these both have an x. So we are able to cross those out. Cross that out. We rewrite that. Limit x approaches 0. It may seem redundant to keep writing the limit, but is it a crucial step to remembering where you're at in the problem? So we are left with the 6 times x plus 6. Now, we're not done at this point, but this is the most simplified form we can get it in. Well, we could distribute this out, but that's not necessary to this part of the problem. So we're going to go ahead and plug in our x value, which is this 0 right there. And at this point, you do not rewrite your limit on the left side of the problem because we're already plugging in. So we have a negative 1 over 6 times 0 plus 6, and that gives us a negative 1 over 6 times 6, which would equal negative 1 or negative 1 over 36. And that is the final answer for this problem.